Hey, good morning, everyone. Mohammad Arshad. Welcome to our podcast. Today we have a very special guest, Hemant, who is a success coach. He has helped a lot of individuals go higher and further in their life and career. He also works with professionals who feel stuck in their jobs and career, and he also coaches first-time managers. And who he is one of the best speakers to talk about today's topic, that is mid-career crisis. So, welcome Hemant and just give a quick introduction about yourself and what do you do.
Hi, Arshad. Thank you for having me here. About me, I've got 18 years of management consulting experience behind me. Worked in several countries across Europe, India, and of course Asia. Uh, and over the past few years, have moved from consulting to coaching because even during my management consulting days, coaching was very much part of my work life. Since I was into change management consulting, which was very people focused, coaching came naturally as part of the role and trainings and assessments. So this was a kind of logical next step for me. And when I took up coaching, I started working with mid-career professionals with whom I had already been working as part of my consulting assignments and had seen a lot of issues and struggles they go through. So I thought that was an area I could really help people with, and that's where I started working on. And then, of course, started venturing towards corporate trainings, public speaking, and also even business consulting. So that's all about me.
So now this particular topic about people who feels really stuck, right? About
Yes.
their careers. So what happens? They start off in the initial years. What I know, people their journey is very fast, right? They get promotions, they learn new things, but when they have 10 plus experience and then they feel little stagnant. As we all know that the competition also rises because there are not much manager level roles as well, and so at that time people are not satisfied and they're not happy with their career journey. So what are your thoughts? I'm sure you meet a lot of people. What are the trends that you're seeing lately, and what are some of the tips that you can give them to traverse this particular midlife crisis or mid career crisis, what I can say?
Sure. So there are a couple of things which I learned from my first boss back in the initial days of consulting, back in 2005. Some I understood, some it took me some time to understood, and some it took me years to understand. So here's let me give you a quick one. The first thing he told me is that as a consultant or as a working professional, you could pretty much sum up your success in the dependency of your success will be on basically two things: competency and credibility, and everything else follows those two things. Competency is the skill with which you can do a job, any task, whatever it is. Your skill at that task is your competency. Credibility is, if you make a promise, do you stay true to it? And it was as simple as, if there is a meeting at 9, do you come at 8:55, do you come at 9, or do you come at 9:05, 9:10? That is the credibility you are building. If you have promised a output of a report, a presentation on Thursday, do you deliver it on Thursday, or do you go to your manager on Thursday saying, oh, sorry, won't be done, it's too difficult, too much, will take longer? You end up giving surprises to people by not coming true on your promise, or not delivering as per competencies or the quality of work. So quality of work as well as timeliness and the integrity which comes out. You establish these two things and you will be successful. So each of the working professional who is hearing us right now, look at your competency as well as your credibility. Can people trust you? And when it comes to can people trust you, it is trust in the sense of, can you deliver the quality they need, which is where your competency will come in. And can you deliver the way they need it, at the time they need it, and in the manner they need it, which is where your credibility will come in. If you are establishing this constantly, continuously, and you are also surprising them in a positive way by delivering more than they expected. People are expecting you to rise, people are expecting you to move further. Your managers, if they see you delivering more than what is expected, doing more than what is expected, you are going to be one of the prime candidates to be considered for a promotion. But if you are not, if you are stagnating in terms of your competency as well as your credibility, your career will also stagnate, because your manager, your senior managers do not see the spark in you that will take you higher. So, very simple concept of the competency and credibility, but you will be able to quickly analyze, have you been learning new things? Have you been delivering more than what you had promised? That will tell you whether you should be rising up or not. And the second thing which my boss told me, and it took me years to understand, seriously, years to understand, is people will rise to the highest level of their incompetence. Yes, I'm saying incompetence. People will keep rising until they reach a point they cannot rise further. And why they cannot rise further is because they are not competent for the next level. Every time you get promoted, every time you jump level up, it means that people can see in you the competencies and the qualities that are required for the next level. When they stop seeing that, your rise in an organization stops. And now it makes a lot of sense that people rise to the highest level of their incompetence. You will reach a point where you have maxed out your competency, your ability, your capability, your knowledge, your skills, everything, and then you just stop going up. And this is what happens in a typical mid career or a midlife crisis kind of scenario. You stop learning, you stop giving more than what is needed, you stop giving that 110% in anything, and those things begin to stagnate. And your rise in the organization, your movement in your career, and it could, I mean, it's not just in your organization, you could be jumping across, but you're not able to even convince the other person in an interview that I can take on that next role. This is what happens, and this is what translates into a mid-career, mid-life crisis from a work point of view. You could start thinking similarly in terms of your relationships and your other areas of life, and you would see a similar pattern that you have started to stagnate internally, and that's the stagnation which comes out externally too. So that's a good place to start, I would say.
So, see, what I feel, Hemant, like people who are comfortable in their jobs, they are just
Yes.
working, they are getting a salary, things are if things are moving fine. No one thinks about whatever you are mentioning. The performance management system of most of the companies are not that mature that it allows nurtures the people to grow, and it is all business related. What is really happens in most of the companies, there are few exceptions for sure, but people are just going there just to get a paycheck at the end of the month, and they are just, if everything is going fine, and all of them are actually very busy also doing the delivery of whatever task they have. No one has that plan in mind for thinking about their next, their career, their future growth as such. But when there is some, you can say, scene situations, like they get a
Yes.
pink slip, or they get that they are told that their role is not any time required, that time they realize that the the bell rings at that time, and then they start thinking about what we are discussing right now. Because
Yes.
one, for a person right now who is working and getting a good salary, he will not think so much. But as we all know, they have to stay prepared. But what about the people who have just got this news, or they just got the realization that their job at their is no more, or their role has become redundant? And from this particular stage now, what are the things that they can do to get back? And sometimes people say that it is a blessing in disguise, but it really, you can say, it hits the morale of the people who
Yes.
get this news, and who are, because as we all know that most of the skills nowadays that people were using 5 years, 6 years, is no more that much relevant, as we all know, because of the automation and
Absolutely.
all those things. So now for these mid-level managers or people who are 10 plus years, how can they prepare? So there are two options, what I know. Maybe one is they will start their own business, because I know many people who have 10 plus 15 years plus experience, and they have started their own consulting or their own personal self, you can say freelancing type of work and small businesses. Others, they are they are still doing something or the other and still continuing and pushing to the corporate ladder. So, what you will tell for the people who get, uh, who are little bit, they have been pushed out of their comfort zone because of this news or because of the industry scenarios or because of the layoffs, and then how, because these are the people I'm sure they need to do immediate action, because for the other ones this is a better to plan or something, but for these are the people that I feel they we need to advise them or we need to tell them how to keep them motivated and how to again get them back on the career path. As you also told that career is, I know is mostly we're focused on the job, but it is also if people are passionate to do something on their own, but we all know that business is not easy. We
Yes.
also have to know that. So, so what are your thoughts on that?
Okay. So a couple of things there. Let's take it one by one.
Yes.
Okay. You mentioned people taking off on an entrepreneurship journey when they get laid off. Okay. So here's the thing. Entrepreneurship or starting your own business, it takes a certain level of madness. If you're doing it, uh, if you're thinking about it, actively thinking, and you actually decide to take a leap, because there is no surety there. In a job, you have a paycheck coming at the end of every month or not. So you can lose the job anytime. So there is uncertainty. And increasingly, people are talking about this uncertainty and glorifying entrepreneurship. I have to warn people that don't think entrepreneurship is easy. In fact, it is very, very difficult. When you are in a job, it is 9 to 5, 9 to 6, 9 to 8. When you are an entrepreneur, it is 24 by 7, not 5 days a week, not 10 hours a day. It is 24 by 7. You are constantly thinking, feeling, selling, and just wondering, what did I land myself into? It's not easy at all. In a job, you're given tasks, you do your tasks. Unless you are in sales, you're not into selling. As an entrepreneur, you are constantly selling to each and every person. Not a direct hard sell, but you're constantly marketing yourself. You're constantly looking for opportunity. You're constantly at work. Your mind is always at work. It's not easy. You do not have the comfort of a monthly paycheck. If you're a solopreneur, great. You are not paying someone else their salary, so it's not a pressure on you. You just have to survive with whatever you have. But if you are actually having employees, it's a double-edged sword, because at the end of every month, while you are not getting paid, they need to be paid and you have to pay them. You need to have the cash, you need to have the funds to continue the business and keep the lights on. It's not easy. So don't jump into entrepreneurship looking at all the glorious stories out on the internet where people are leaving their jobs, becoming an entrepreneur, because it is very, very difficult. The 10 success stories you hear are the glorified versions, and they hide the 1000 sad stories, horror stories that entrepreneurs go through. And even in those 10 stories, they are telling you about their successes. They are not telling about that hard road to achieve that success. I don't know how many years they spend. Sometimes it is a stroke of luck. Try to differentiate between that. So let's get entrepreneurship right now out of the way. Because if somebody is being an entrepreneur, somebody wants to become an entrepreneur, it's a very different conversation. Let's focus on the people in jobs who are either stuck and not moving, or let's also focus on people who have lost their jobs. Okay. So, my personal experience, year 2001, I got laid off because the IT bubble burst. 2009, when the recession, the subprime recession happened, I was almost laid off. My company went through a massive crisis, and I was every day counting my days like, okay, now the email will come, now the company will be shut down, now something will happen. Thank God it did not happen. 2012, I was asked to resign. Again, a layoff happened. But within a month, I was told, okay, withdraw your resignation because we now have projects. A month ago, we did not have a good visibility. So some things happened. So here you can withdraw your consent. Then of course we have seen COVID again. March, lockdowns began. By June, when we were asked to resume office again, the first day at office, a few of us were called into office and said thank you for your services. That was another time which happened. So, as a person who has gone through multiple ups and downs in my career, and I have had a very successful career, and each of the layoffs, when they happened, they triggered something in me and they actually brought me where I am today. They actually turned out to be very good for my career. They actually changed the direction in which I was taking my career. So, 2001, I was in IT as a programmer. Thank God the layoff happened. I escaped out of IT industry, right? I came into training and then became a consultant. If that wouldn't have happened, the layoff wouldn't have happened, I wouldn't have become a consultant, I wouldn't have traveled the world, I wouldn't have done the amazing things which I've done, right? 2020 when it happened, he said, great, I have been thinking about coaching for a long time, this is a good kick in the butt, let me get my coaching certification done. And I actually did that. I found another job, worked in a job, but I started my coaching journey. And now I am a full-time coach. I am not in a 9 to 5 job, I'm a full-time coach, thanks to the kick I got in 2020, without which I wouldn't have done it. And even the other layoffs which happened, or the times when I went through a very difficult time in my career where layoff was like almost about to happen, it set me thinking and it put me in action. And that is exactly what I want to tell each one of you, both those who have lost their jobs and those who haven't but are stuck in their jobs. We become stagnant. When we have a good job, when things are stable, we don't rock our own boat. We become stagnant in terms of our learning. We don't go out of our way to learn new things, to learn advanced technologies. We wait for things to happen to us. We wait for our organization to schedule a training for us. We wait for some technology to become so big and so widespread that everybody is doing it. Sorry, excuse me. And we end up doing it out of FOMO rather than being proactive and learning about it. Let's take a recent example. It's April. Chat GPT pretty much became mainstream in January. People started using it in December, people started talking about it. In January, a lot of people were talking about it. In February, everybody was talking about it. In March, go beyond everybody, because non-techies, techies, business owners, people who are not even using Chat GPT, who have got nothing to do with Chat GPT, everybody is using or talking about it. Or AI becomes a normal conversation. You would have had hundreds of AI related conversations in the past 2 months. Now think back into these last 4 months. When did you actively start talking about AI and ChatGPT? When did you actually search information to understand what ChatGPT is? Are you one of those people who think ChatGPT is AI? Or are you one of those people who knows, not just thinks, who knows that ChatGPT is a language interface to an AI? ChatGPT by itself, not an AI. It allows you to talk to an AI, and there are hundreds of other AI tools available in it. Which bucket do you fall? Which will tell you where you are. Are you stagnating here in your head? Because if you're doing that, your jobs and careers will also stagnate. So, if you've lost your job, you suddenly have the one resource which nobody has, which is time. Most of the people are locked into their jobs, pretty much working 9 to 5, 9 to 8, 9 to 9. God knows what timings people are working these days. Or they are also doing moonlighting and doing projects on the side, so they are working even in the night. They just do not have the time to explore, to expand their horizon. They are struggling to keep what they have got. You, on the other hand, while you are searching for the next job, you have got a great amount of time as a resource to spend on multiple things. One, of course, is your job search. Two, reach out to people you know and even people you don't know, and make your network stronger. Let it be known to people you know and people who know you that you are looking for a job. What kind of job you are looking? right? They need to know because somebody will be able to help you. Just don't rely on job search. And time to learn new things, time to reinforce what you already know and learn new technologies. When you are searching for jobs, look at the job description very, very carefully. Look at the company profile. You'll get two inputs. One, what exactly skill sets are they looking for in that job? Do you have something which is there something which is missing from your skill set that the job requires? Because that is a skill set you should be prioritizing to learn. It could be technical, it could be functional, it could be soft skills. You need to start working on it. Look at that organization you are targeting, an organization where you want a job. What are they talking about these days? Are they talking about AI? Are they talking about machine learning? Are they talking about automation? Are they talking about implementing an ERP? What are they talking about? Because you need to know that subject so that when you end up in the interview, you can actually talk about that subject. And if you're selected in that organization, chances are they would try and fit you onto that project which is forward looking, which they are planning to implement. And that's a best place to be in an organization. Rather than be in a routine job, be in a project that is making a big difference to the organization. So if you lost your job, don't lose hope. Jobs will come, not immediately maybe, because the job market is tight. A couple of conversations with the recruiters, most of them are talking about a sort of hiring freeze which has happened. The hiring picked up in the last year, second half of 2022, 23 beginning, it has again kind of put on freeze. The only hiring which is sort of happening is replacements. People have left, they need to be replaced. That's kind of hiring is there. Or if there are some organizations, not all, some organizations which are initiating projects, there might be related to project related hiring. Most organizations are not very sure of the growth numbers in the next 1 and 2 years. They are not hiring for growth, which is the normal job market explosion which happens, and lots of jobs in the market. That happens when growth is there. When people and organizations are thinking about 10% growth, 15% growth, they are hiring for that growth. Right now, that's not there. So use this time wisely. And of course, and this is for both people who are in jobs. Find the time to do the exact same thing which I was asking the people who have lost jobs to do. They are competing with you. In a year's time, in 6 months' time, if they continue to work on their skill sets and their knowledge base, they are just going to be a better catch for organizations than you. So you need to be upgrading yourself too, and find the time within your organization. Try to make a greater difference than what you have been making. There are times when I've heard this thing that don't be irreplaceable, because then you will never be replaced, which is a good thing for people who want stability, but not a great thing if you want to constantly rise in the organization. Because if you then you will get stuck if you become irreplaceable. But don't become expendable. That's what is happening today. If your skills, you're not upgrading your skills, the job itself will upgrade. You would be hearing a lot of AI conversation, a lot of people saying AI will take away our jobs. And you would have also heard that AI will not take away your jobs. The guy using AI will take away your job. And that's the reality. That is the reality. Jobs of 10 people can easily be done by one or two people who will be very adept at working with a relevant AI. And I'm not talking about ChatGPT only. There are hundreds of AI tools. There will be a tool which will be striking your job profile also. So you need to find that AI and you need to start learning that AI so that you will be the person who will unfortunately ending up taking other people's job, because that is bound to happen. You choose which side of the fence you are going to be. Those who will lose jobs because they don't know AI, or those who will be in demand because they know the AI which is right for their jobs. So constantly learning new things, building your network, uh, utilizing your time to actually get upgraded in your skill set, and creating yourself as the professional who is a must required, or like must have in the organization. That is what is going to keep you moving in terms of your career, as well as it will keep you within the organization and not become a subject of layoffs. And yes, one more thing. Arshad had mentioned that you tend to any layoff will hit your self-esteem. It will hit your confidence, and I've been through that phase. Fortunately, the layoffs, the way it happened to me, I was always happy when they happened, and did not really get a shock. So it was different for me. But I know I've talked to so many of people. I do interview coaching also, so I've talked to so many people who have lost their jobs or stuck, and layoffs have that impact on people. Even if you were in Google or Facebook, there the problem is even more because it almost becomes your identity. When you work with a big brand, the brand becomes your identity. You introduce yourself to people formally as well as informally, and even within your family, as somebody, oh, I work with Google, or I work with Facebook. It becomes a part of your identity. And as soon as it is taken away from you, you suddenly don't know who you are. So, a big note for you: there is life and there is work. When you talk about work life balance, life is a big part of what you are doing. Work is supposed to be about 8 hours and only 5 days a week. Don't let your work overpower your life as well as your identity. Second, the most important things for the times we are living in today: layoffs, when they are happening, it's no longer a very structured attempt at removing the bottom 5%, 10%, 20% in the organization. And when I say bottom, I say bottom by performance. It's no longer that. So organizations are not removing people because of their performance. They are removing irrespective of their performance. You will find so many people around there who are absolutely great at their work. They have achieved a lot of things for their organizations, and still they got laid off. We're just in some strange times where organizations which are not bleeding, organizations which are not incurring losses, just to save their stakeholder image and the balance sheet should look good, they are firing people. And when that firing happens, anybody and everybody can get fired. In fact, people with very high salaries are often the first ones to be fired. And imagine, if somebody is at a high salary, that would have been a result of massive increments happening every few years or every year, and that would have happened based on very high performance. So imagine, if you have really, really, really performed very, very, very well, and your salary has been jumping year on year, you actually might be a prime target for a layoff if your organization is deciding to do so. So, in either ways, a fear of layoff should not be preventing you from performing. At the same time, a layoff should not be hitting on your self-esteem or even your confidence. Always be sure of what you are, what you can contribute, and what your capabilities are. Don't look at a barometer or a metric set by an organization to assess yourself. Do your own self-assessment. So that's an
So
important thing I would like to drive home. Over to you, Arshad.
thanks. Yeah. So now one thing, as we all know, that gaps. Now, as you have laid off or you leave the company and then you are applying for a new company, the problem of gaps come into the picture.
Absolutely.
And that is one thing that I wanted to ask your thoughts about that. And second thing is now, as we all know that India specifically from where we are coming, people spend a lot of money in upskilling themselves and learning. There was a report also from LinkedIn that Indians are one of the most they spend most of the time and money in upskilling themselves, and they have been doing that. And what are your thoughts about higher education and specifically for, I know more and more people are doing that. There's a very big edtech boom as well. Does
Yes.
that really help? And third thing is like about the gaps and people who suppose who want to switch careers. Now switch in the sense like roles. Like you also talked about your own history that you switched between careers. But suppose someone who wants to switch to some technical, nowadays everyone is talking about AI and all these things. They want to shift towards AI. So towards these things. So people ask for some experience or some thing to show that you know these things, and how can these people build up their profile and or their personal brand or their resume to show that they know these things and they have some knowledge of these things other than just the education part and what they have done. So three things I wanted to talk to you about: the gap, the education, and the how to show an experience of the a new type of role that you want to get into. More specifically, I am talking because nowadays everyone is talking about and they really want to get towards the AI and automation part.
Absolutely. So let's start with the gaps first.
Yeah.
Uh, yeah, most men are worried about gaps now because they are really experiencing it. Women have been experiencing gaps in their career since they started working. Every time a child is born, they have a gap in their career, right? Now, so for women, it was acceptable. They knew when the gaps would happen, it would coincide with either a childbirth or with marriage. And it used to work against them. In spite of it being completely natural phenomena, it used to work against them. And then layoffs started. If we look at it, I mean, pretty much the 2001 IT bubble burst, 2001, 2008 when the subprime recession happened, and 2020. In the earlier, when the recessions happened, it was again looked upon as negatively whenever your CV would go to a recruiter, etc. Of late, the thought process has begun to change because people have begun to realize and even understand that a gap in the career was not your fault. If you got laid off, the organization laid off hundreds and thousands of people, and you were also a part of that. As simple as that. So you can easily say that layoffs happened. I was one of them, and it impacted, and that's why there is a gap in the career. So the gap itself will no longer be a problem, right? In most places, in most HR or recruitment teams you talk to, or the most people you talk to, the leaders you talk to, the managers you talk to, if you actually end up getting interviewed by them, the gap itself is not a problem. Don't allow it to be a problem. Don't see it as a problem. I'm talking of you as a candidate. Don't look at a gap as a problem. But the real problem with the gap is that a lot of people do not do anything in that gap. And that's what we were talking a few minutes ago. If you've laid off, you've got this treasure of time with you. If you waste it, if you're not upskilling yourself, if you have not done a project, if you have not done something with somebody, right? If you haven't talked anything which is worthwhile talking, if you haven't worked on anything like that, that is a problem because people would want to know that, oh, there is a gap in the career. What happened? And you say, I lost my job at that time and I was searching for another job. Versus you saying, yes, there was this period when I lost my job and there was a period of almost 18 months. I'm saying 18 months, which is a very long period without a job. And it was actually good because in that 18 months, I upskilled myself. I learned a few things about this. I worked with a friend on his startup and we designed and built. Sometimes it can actually change your path. You actually worked for a year on a startup and maybe it failed. Maybe it did not succeed. So you went back to finding a job and you found a job and you went back to being a career professional rather than a startup guy. But you need to have a story to tell and a very good, strong story to tell. Don't bluff because people will see through it. I have been in interviews when somebody bluffed with me and I could just see through it. And when I asked a few questions, it's completely fell flat. I've heard from other people where they told me that somebody bluffed and then they went on telling stories. And the interviewer, being a very smart individual and in a mood to have fun, he took the person along for a ride. So he kept the person who was giving the interview, kept lying and the interview just gave more questions to that person to see to what extent the person would go. Of course the person never then the person never got the job, but the key point is if you have a gap, utilize that gap to do something, work on something, create something. If you're able to talk about even a gap with a lot of passion and a lot of productive time spent on something, it works in your favor, not against you. So that's talking about the gaps. Let's talk about education because it is again linked to the gap. If you have got a gap, you should have utilized that to pursue a further education, pursue courses. We live in an age where education, right, Okay, education has become very, very expensive, but knowledge is practically free. The internet as a source of knowledge has created so many avenues. There are find free as well as paid courses, and even the paid courses are like $50, $100, $200, which otherwise would cost you a whole lot more. You can easily upgrade and upskill yourself. And of course, higher education is a big investment decision. Now let's talk about that. If you were to go for a higher education as a 1 year 2 year program, or you wanted to go for a very specialized course which will cost you thousands of dollars, let's say 2000 to 5000 or even $10,000. Now those are investments of time and effort and money that you do not make lightly. What you really need to do is talk to people, if you can find them, who have already done that course. How did it help them in their career? Did it lead to better opportunities? Did it lead to a higher salary? Did it lead to greater opportunities to make a difference at their organizations, which would lead to a good salary increment in the subsequent year? These are the questions you need to ask, because ultimately, if you're spending a couple of $1,000, it needs to have an ROI. The money should come back to you as greater opportunities, better salary, and those things. Right? Otherwise, why? It should be a relevant skill. Don't just go for a higher education because everybody has been going gaga over that over the past 20 years. Because what was relevant then might not be relevant today. Right? So higher education has its space, has its charm, and it also has its utility if organizations are really giving value to that particular higher education, and not just in terms of particular course, but a particular course from a particular institute. Sometimes the same course from 5 different institutes can have very, very different results in terms of as an output for your salary, etc. Now coming to the switch. Switching is not very difficult, I would say. Uh, I would say that the switch requires you to, one, start. First, of course, you have to be very clear on what do you want to switch into. If you have been in operations and you want to go into sales, you should have your very strong logic for going into sales. Second, you need to have the skills for going into skills for into sales. Third, what knowledge and experience from operations will help you in sales, because that is your selling pitch. When you go to a recruiter telling them that I have got operations experience, I want a job in sales. When you're going to a recruiter, the recruiter will say, why would I even take an operations guy into sales? You have no experience. That is the response that you need to have. One, what kind of sales experience you have got? Probably none. But have you done any kind of selling anywhere? Second, what kind of sales expertise you have got? Not an experience, but expertise. Look at all the skill sets that are required for the sales role, and look at yourself. Do a self assessment of which of those skills and expertise that you have got. Can you do some online courses? Can you do some physical face to face courses where you will learn the skills? And last one, I mean, and of course, from your operations experience, what are the things that can help you in your sales role? Have you been doing any kind of selling without calling it selling in operations? Because even in operations, you are constantly convincing people. And what is sales if not convincing people to buy your product? So if you have been doing that, if you have been working around people, challenges by working with people in your operations role, maybe sales is also something that can help you. And maybe the knowledge of operations can help you become a better salesperson as compared to anybody else. First, you need to be very clear of this transition, build your answers, build your skill set, and then we probably will not be picked up by any one of them because it doesn't have sales experience. So your CV also need to show that in spite of being in other roles, you have got the necessary skill set. So you'll have to tweak your CV. In your network, tell everybody that you are looking for a sales job. Everybody around you should know that if they come across an opportunity for a sales job, they should be telling you. That's very, very important. People who have lost jobs, reach out, dig deep into your networks, and let everybody know that you are looking for a job and you are looking for a particular kind of job. Don't just say, oh, I want any job, because then they don't know where to recommend you. Tell them very specifically what kind of job you're looking for, so that when they hear that job, they will think of you. When they think of you, they will think about that kind of job. They will try and search for you, or at least they will remember you when they come across that kind of job. So it has to be very focused also, right? And moving into new technological areas, AI is a very good example. You want to switch into working with AI, and you want an organization to recruit you for that role, and obviously they will ask you, what is your experience? And your work experience probably doesn't talk about it. Your current role or your past roles have got nothing to do with AI. Then how do you show experience? One, start working on what you want to work in the future in your own time. Build something, create something, share it online. Not only should you be working on those things, you should be creating evidence that you have actually worked on those things. So if you have, let's say, worked with ChatGPT or created or worked with Midjourney or DALI or so many other of those things, if you have worked with those, and I'm saying worked, not like the millions of people who are having a few chats with ChatGPT and saying, oh, great. No, actually worked something, created some great prompts. Can you teach people how to prompt for ChatGPT or for Midjourney or for? If you have done those things, put it out, share it with people, share your experience of working on those things, and share the output that you have created for people to use it. Volunteer to teach this to a few people. Have an online session. It's very easy, announce a session, call people on Zoom, maybe half an hour, 40 minutes, and you share it with people. Some people will learn and they will talk about that they learned it from you, and they will mention you. Some organization who needs that skill set might just see one of those posts by you or by someone else and actually approach you that, oh, you're doing this, we need a guy to do this. Or when you go for an interview and you can actually present that I've been doing this, I have done myself, I have taught people, I've shared with people, it's online, even you can see, and they will see evidence of you having worked on a new technology, having explored a new technology, sharing your experience of that new technology. And they know that they have got something here in which they can invest some time and resource in at least evaluating you for that role, right? If, let's say, AI is so new, some of the organizations, they want somebody who can work with AI. They don't even know how to evaluate somebody who is coming for an interview. They are actually shooting in the dark. Sometimes you will end up helping them evaluate. So you're making their job of evaluation easy by giving them so much evidence that I've been doing this for a long time. Do you have any case in your organization that you want to use it? I could actually show you how to do it, and so on and so forth. In the interview, you could present to them in a way that you are absolutely ready for any kind of challenges. That's how, in spite of having no work experience on a particular skill set, you can actually showcase. The only thing is, you will have to invest that much of time and effort into it to create all that kind of evidence, to create that kind of knowledge base and a very practical work experience, which is not in an organization, at your own time, but that works in your favor. That is how you prove to them that you're ready, even if even if there is no organization document which is there to support you, you have got other kind of documentation to support. So that's a gaps, education, switching, and of course missing work experience, all covered.
Amazing, yes, Hemant. You summarized everything very well, and I'm sure all your tips and are there. And mainly, what I can summarize, and you can also conclude. One is for people who are already working. What are the things that they need to do proactively?
Yes.
So the best thing is the best case scenario is people should realize this and proactively take care of their the to go through this journey in a very smooth way. And the second is for people who have received a bad news or who have forcibly put in a situation where they need to think about these things. And now we will keep this whole discussion for people who are in corporate, and we will not talk about entrepreneurs, or because that, as you told, is a completely different topic and a different thing. But just as you also mentioned as a caveat, is that it is not sexy, that it's not easy, that
Absolutely.
you need to have a passion, or you need to, if you we not talk about this, and maybe you can also talk few words when you're concluding, is also, if you are passionate about building something, try it out as a side hustle in your free time. And if when you feel that your side hustle or whatever you are doing is able to generate you some money, or that is that can take care of your basic expenditure, at that time, that is the time when you need to think about pursuing it completely. But until then, always to keep it as a side hustle and focus on your corporate job and your whatever you are doing in your career. And that is one thing that I also suggest people, and you also can, when you're concluding, you can also talk about this thing, that try to do a side hustle. And many people are, as you also told, right, doing moonlighting, doing a side hustle, build something, like build a small project or a small source of revenue which is around your passion. And if it grows later on, you can think about monetizing that in a more throttle way, in a more, you can put more throttle and you can make it more, scale it up. Until then, I think whatever two tips that you told about the two types of career modes that are there, and I would like to hear your concluding words. And thanks a lot for your time and Hemant.
Thank you, Arshad, for this opportunity for sharing my thoughts and touching upon this sensitive subject of midlife, mid-career crisis, and even people losing jobs. In the past 18 months, we have practically got thousands and thousands of people losing jobs, and some of the big names have like laid off like 12,000, 15,000 people in like one go. And then, of course, a small trickle is there. So I think as a concluding note, let me touch upon another sensitive thing: money. Uh, Whether entrepreneur, whether you have lost a job, whether you are in a stable job, secure your future. And when I say future, I am meaning both long term as well as short term future. Uh, you hear a lot from these financial advisors or financial influencers these days. They talk about a 6 months emergency fund. I have actually begun telling people that a 6 months emergency fund may not be enough. You need a 12 months emergency fund, which means there should be an amount of money locked away, something which you don't touch, something which you can withdraw very quickly. And that fund should survive you on your basic, simple expenses, basic necessary expenses for 12 months. Once you have created that 12-month fund, keep looking at increasing it to 18 months also. And why I'm increasing the timeline from 6 to 12 to 18? We are living in times where a job loss is not once in a lifetime event. Like I've gone through multiple job losses, and some of the people who are listening to it might actually have gone through multiple ones either. And we have had the recessions, we have had COVID induced, now we are having the after effects of COVID induced ones. The trouble is, job losses will happen and you will not immediately easily find another job. The gap between your current job loss and the next job might range from a few months to many, many months. Right until 2020, I have seen posts made by people that I lost my job in the first wave of COVID, which is 2020. And for the last 18 months, for the last 15 months, I don't have a job. Those are scary numbers. 18 months, 15 months without earning can completely wipe off everything that people have. Right? So your emergency fund has to be very strong. If you're an entrepreneur, or somebody who's thinking about entrepreneurship, 12 months, 6 months is not going to play. You need 3 years of cash, which will survive you and your family. And this is only you and your family, not for your business. Business fund will be different. But this is cash which is for your own survival, etc. 3 years. Because you need to give 2 to 3 years to your business. It's not going to just suddenly explode in 1 year. All those dreams of starting up and in 1 year, 2 year, the valuation going skyrocketing high happens with a few, does not happen to thousands of people who do that. So 2 to 3 years of actual fund you should have to start up. Now that is very, very difficult to have that much cash spare and locked away for emergency. And which is why I say entrepreneurship is for mad people. It takes a huge amount of madness to not have that platform, not have that cushion, not have that parachute of 2, 3 years of savings, and yet jump onto entrepreneurship. So take that leap knowing fully well that you need that parachute. Your parachute, if it is less than just 1 year or 2 years, it may not be enough to take you through the journey. You might come at a time where you don't have the funds, you can't borrow more, and you have to abandon your entrepreneurship journey, which you know another 6 months and it would take off. And you've just exhausted uh, all the places where you could borrow money. So think very carefully, think very hard whether you have got a stable job, you don't have a job, or you're jumping onto an entrepreneurship journey. Money is absolutely important, and the first thing you should think about, and you need to put down your calculations on paper and get a view of where are you going to get the funds from, and that's how you will survive through it. So let's end on a note on this currency note.
Thanks a lot, Hemant. I'm sure the listeners would learn a lot. And we all know that knowledge is there. It's just that people need to apply it in a structured manner and
Yes.
use it. That is the one of the most important things. And thanks a lot, Hemant. I'm sure the users will love it. And we will talk more about these topics later on when we have time. And have a great day and take care.
You too. Bye
Bye
bye.
bye.
Thanks to all the listeners for being here and have a nice day.